In this movie, we'll take a look at a very, very cool feature of Anime Studio, and that is welding. It's a capability that I wish more drawing programs had because it's just such a time saver. You may come into this from another drawing package and go, wow, this is a weird tool. But in the context of creating characters for animation, this tool is a huge time saver. I've gone ahead in my style palette over to the right here and set up a red fill for default and black lines because we're going to draw a tomato. Now, doesn't that sound exciting? I'm also going to use, at least for part of this, my tablet where I've got a pen attached to it that is responsive to thick and thin or pressure and automatically creates thick and thin lines depending on how hard I'm pressing on the pen. I'll switch to my freehand tool using the keyboard shortcut F, and we see that little highlight change over here in the left hand side. I'm just going to draw one side of the tomato, pressing lightly, and then I go ahead and finish it off right there. Now you'll notice that this did not fill automatically, and that's because Anime does not, unlike some of the other drawing packages, will not fill a shape that isn't closed. And by closed, I mean that it's got a solid outline all the way around it. Those other drawing programs will. Now you can create that look with Anime, but that uses a different tool that we'll take a look at in a movie that's coming up shortly. Now you saw me draw that with a pen tool, and you may go, well, that's really nice, but I don't have a tablet. Well, let me show you something very neat. I'll go ahead and switch to the Add Point tool, keyboard shortcut A. I'll go ahead and start right here and click and drag again. Then we'll do this one last time. Yeah, maybe we'll add one more. This is the second half of our rather large beefsteak tomato. Now look, there's no line weight to it. There's nothing going on. It doesn't seem to match this other side at all. That's true. Now let's go ahead and look at the power of the weld tool. I'll switch to the translation tool, keyboard shortcut T, and the weld isn't a tool in and of itself. It's merely a capability that you've got with the tools, and it's always available, or if you can use it, it's available shown by the little checkbox up at the top. I have autofill enabled so you can see when we actually get this object filled. I'm going to grab this point, and the translation tool will let you click on single nodes. It won't let you select multiple nodes like you can, but it grabs the one nearest the pointer. And I'm going to drag it over to this other shape we drew. It doesn't have to connect directly to a point. It can connect to the line in between the points. So you just get it near the line and release. You go, well, nothing's happened there. It has. If I click on that point again and move it, we can see that now it's been joined together. I'll come down to this lower point of the second half of the tomato we drew and bring that back over midline on that other shape. Now, since I had autofill enabled, it automatically filled the shape up, and we've got the little checkerboard showing that this shape has been highlighted. Let me go back to our, well, I'll show you a little shortcut here. When an entire object gets selected on a layer, and we're only working with one layer right now. When everything's selected, the only way you can deselect it is by going to Select None, unless it's the only object on the scene, and then you can use the select inverse, which is kind of a keyboard shortcut to deselect objects. Nice time saver when you're doing this. So on the Macintosh, it's Command I for inverse. On the PC, it will be Control I for the inverse. I'll go ahead and do that right now, and our object deselects. I've clicked off that, and we see we've got a very funny looking tomato going on. Well, here is where the strength of this tool shows up and how we'll go ahead and finesse it a little bit further. When this line was welded onto the second half, Anime looked at it and went, wow, this line, one of them's thick and one of them's thin. I better kind of gently flare this one into the thin one. And it did that automatically. Likewise down at the bottom. If we want to go ahead and get this portion of the line larger, then we can simply come over here to our width tool, keyboard shortcut W, click on it, and this tool will allow you to select node by node or line by line if you want. And we can increase that to the point where it looks a little more like it matches. Now here's something else worthy of pointing out. While using the freehand tool is very nice, especially with the tablet, and it's going to give you some great looks with it, it also creates a little less of a smooth line because to interpolate that curve or to figure out where it curves, it simply adds points. The Add Point tool itself just follows how many points you put down, and then it figures out the curve to make them blend smoothly. So if you like this little kind of what's called a truncated look, or a little more detailed look, you can do the freehand tool with that. And then if you want to smooth it out, we come back to the translation tool, keyboard shortcut T, and select a point and simply hit delete. And it will start figuring out the curve in between. You can grab the point and finesse it around. Very easy to do. Well, suppose we want to just have a little bit more of a detail down here, maybe one on the back side. I can come back to my Add Point tool, click on the line, and since Auto Weld is enabled right now, I'll click on the line and it joins right there. And I can go ahead and click on that point and drag into the shape a little bit. Now that looks kind of funny. We've got this skinny line right there, and it should be filling. We've got autofill. Well, this is where we need it to inherit a little more of the properties we have set. We can come back to the Paint Bucket tool, select that, and simply click on that line. And it will add that effect to the line. So there's a way that you can really rapidly develop some detail, whether it's hair in a character, or dimensions to a fruit, or if this was a rock, we can add some other little curves to it very quickly with these cool tools in Anime Studio. In our next movie, we'll take a look at something very important to learn how to do, and that is creating compound shapes.